Welcome to Healthcare du Jour, where we dish up and digest the latest in healthcare. For the next 30 minutes, sit back as we bring you insight, commentary, and discussion on trending topics to the table, all expertly served up by our host and his guests. Healthcare du Jour is brought to you by Healthcare Now Radio, part of the Media Answers Network, and is sponsored by the law offices of Myrick O'Connell. Now here's your host, Matt Fisher.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining as we dive into the hottest topics in healthcare. I'm your host, Matt Fisher. On the menu today is Justin Gernot, Vice President at Healthbox. Welcome, Justin.
Thanks, Matt. Great to be here.
So, Justin, what I always like to do with my guests before really diving into the conversation is give each person more of a chance to give their own self-introduction. So, if you can give a little bit more background in terms of who you are and what you do, that would be great.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I've been with Healthbox for 3.5 years. For the last 2 years, we've been a part of HIMSS, which I'm sure everybody knows is the big healthcare IT trade association, and we provide innovation services to healthcare organizations of all types. We've been in digital health since 2010, which is a long time for what we traditionally think of as what we've come to think of as digital health, and so we help with investment, digital health, and innovation strategies, as well as innovation programs. Mostly for large providers, payers, and market suppliers like pharmaceutical or IT and software companies. So it's a great space. It's a fun team that I get to be a part of, and now being a part of HIMSS for the last 2 years, we've just got a bigger team and a broader sphere of influence and a bigger platform on which to do a lot of really fun and necessary things. So prior to that, I spent 18 years in healthcare technology, sales, and sales management positions. Started my career with GE Healthcare in radiology and cardiology and capital equipment sales. Spent some time with companies like Intuitive Surgical that were really innovative and disruptive, and was just prior to coming on with Healthbox, was in data center sales for large hardware and software companies. But always been in healthcare, always loved just the mission and the technology and the outcomes that we're all trying to drive to as an industry.
So, given your history and your reference to kind of seeing innovation throughout your career, kind of from your perspective, how has innovation been defined at different points in time, and how has that been evolving as we now are moving into kind of, as you referenced, the more digital age?
It's a great question, and innovation has been defined differently by different companies, kind of based on where they were positioned, right? Oftentimes when you think innovation, you think about the disruptive technologies. I would take innovation, and our company certainly takes innovation in a more broad sense to mean all the things that need to change in order to make progress. So there can be process innovation, there can be innovative new ways to hire, innovative new ways to engage people in your communication style. But our favorite definition at Healthbox for innovation is invention adopted. Invention is really hard. And so many times you think that when you get the patent or when you get the product to market that you've crossed the finish line. But the reality is it's that adoption that's so necessary. When you get the adoption done, then you truly have innovation. And that's really where a lot of the most challenging and the most rewarding work is done.
Yeah, that definition is really great because I think you're right. It's obviously there's a lot of time and effort and hard work that goes into the creation of the invention. But I think, as you just said, that really is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. And then arguably the even harder work then needs to start when it comes to adoption. Oh,
for sure. Yeah, and we've seen that in all kinds of technologies, all kinds of management and leadership practices. We go from bench to bedside, and on average, in 17 years for new technologies that come into healthcare. And I think it takes at least that long for other kinds of innovations, just because of the kind of industry we are, how set we are in evidence-based, tradition-laden protocols and ways of doing business.
So, kind of given that basis, as you said, having you wanting to have evidence basis for adopting new processes or new technologies, what are some of the ways to help maybe streamline that or make that kind of continuum a bit more efficient?
Well, there's an awful lot that can be done. I think with the clients that we work with, it really starts with getting some help in defining a strategy. What is your strategy around innovation? And a big part of that is looking inward and deciding what kind of organization are you, and what can you do, what should you do, and what should you stay away from. And in a lot of cases, that means building new capabilities, or even deciding to get out of some businesses or stop doing certain things. And that's tough to do. But I think beyond that, it's about whatever you're going to do in innovation. If you're going to, if you're a health system and you're going to extend the technology transfer function that you have that brings your research innovations to market. If you're going to look for other areas of opportunity within the health system, or if you're going to look to bring things internal, I think you really have to make it a program and make it a commitment. It's hard to get quick wins with innovation. This mentality, this idea of failing fast, which is so common in software and in other industries, it's tough in healthcare. We don't want to fail. We've got a lot of people who were straight A students for 20 some years before they started in clinical practice or before they led a hospital. They don't want to fail, and the expectation is not that they will fail. But figuring out but failing fast is really just iterating, and it's figuring out what's that right next thing to do, that right next step. It's experimentation, and it happens in research and on the bench all the time. We don't want it to happen at the bedside. So I think making that programmatic commitment that's based on smart strategy, deciding as an organization, who you are and who you're not, and letting that guide your decisions, and then making that multi-year commitment, because there's virtually no companies in healthcare who see a short ROI on innovation. You might get a win here or there, but if you really want to see all the fruits of an innovation program or a commitment to innovation, it's going to take some time.
So is it fair to say that with what you just described, it's really a cultural shift? Because it's, as I think you're just saying, it really needs to be deep rooted and can't really just be in one area of an operation. Because, I think as so often gets said in healthcare, there's so many layers that if you change one thing, you don't fully appreciate how many other processes or people that you're impacting. So it's, as you were saying, that it's, a years long effort. Again, as I said, that really to me sounds like it's a change of culture.
It certainly is. And the organizations that we've seen that have been the most successful have embraced innovation for all of the cultural reasons. They've had some part of their culture that was innovative, but then they had other parts of the organization that were interested in innovation. They were interested in supporting it. They were interested in creating it, but really didn't have a means to get to it. So particularly with the health systems, the ones who are the most successful are the ones who wanted to nurture that culture of innovation. And when you think about it, everyone in every job, your job, my job, we all have stuff that's broken. Problems that we have, things that bother us. And if there's a way to fix those things, whether by inventing something new or bringing in a solution that someone else has created, that's exciting. It doesn't matter what your function is. So everyone wants to be innovative because fundamentally they want to fix problems that they see. So if there is that top-down cultural commitment, and I mean top-down from the board and the CEO down through the rest of the organization, that commitment to innovation, and there are lots of flavors of what you can do within innovation. When you have that cultural commitment and when you really want to make that your culture, that's energizing to everyone. There's no one out there who wouldn't want to see their job get better, to see their organization perform better, and to see their patients have healthier lives as a result of it. So completely agree. It's a cultural decision, long before it's anything else.
And I think that's an important observation, because it feels like the healthcare industry can be fairly frequently criticized for being resistant to change. I think you're implicitly saying it earlier that there are some serious stakes, and that you don't want to necessarily be going through the iterative process when you're at the bedside, but hopefully you've done it earlier. So it's but to that last point you were just making, it would be surprising to find a system out there that really says, no, we're not trying to improve, and we're not trying to find the best way to provide the highest quality of care to patients.
Totally agree. Everyone wants to provide the highest quality of care, but that aversion to risk is not just at the bedside. That aversion to risk often shows up in the executive suite in not wanting to lose money and in not wanting to make a wrong decision. But the reality is, when you're trying to do new things, you should expect to make mistakes. And there are ways to limit the impact of those mistakes, and there are ways to accelerate the mistakes and accelerate the learning. So while it's not right for every healthcare organization out there to be out on the bleeding edge of adopting new technologies and adopting new processes, there are ways to take the risk out of those decisions, and we help do that in a few different ways with our clients. And there's also ways to identify the areas in which you should innovate and identify the areas in which you should not, where you should be a follower, where you should be essentially status quo with your technology and your business practices. So totally agree that much of the industry, much of what we think of it in the industry is not sort of traditionally an innovation first kind of culture. Everybody still wants to fix the things that are broken. Everybody still wants to advance. So whether it's called innovation or not, there's a huge appetite across the industry to get to what's new and to get to what's better. And fundamentally, that's innovation.
Yeah, and thinking about the risk aversion that you were just talking about, it seems like sometimes if you have an external pressure that kind of forces you beyond that point, all of a sudden you can see the ability to be nimble. And I think probably the most obvious recent example that we're all still experiencing is the COVID pandemic. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things that I keep hearing, or one of the ways of framing it that you keep hearing is 10 years or more of desired changes have been crammed through in the span of weeks, months, or even down to days. So kind of interested to get your perspective in terms of how you've seen the pandemic change the calculus when it comes to adoption and implementation of different types of innovative ideas.
Oh, it's accelerated and any number of technologies tremendously. So if necessity is the mother of invention, then I would say that this pandemic is the mother of rapid digital adoption. It has brought on, particularly in areas of telehealth, it's just become a necessity. It's the only way to take care of so many patients. I won't say that does everything for everyone. It's hard to do an abdominal exam via Zoom. It's really hard to do blood draws and other tests as well. But certainly telehealth has been accelerated greatly. We've also seen a significant investment in pharmaceuticals, not just for the vaccines, which are, we've seen an unprecedented investment and risk being taken on by the pharmaceutical companies. But we're seeing this basic core science being brought to the forefront again and being invested in heavily. I'm hopeful that continues. I'm also hopeful that we see the more rapid decision making on the part of all kinds of healthcare organizations that we've seen here during the pandemic. Organizations have created war rooms and put the same 5 or 6 leaders in the room for some period of the day, every day, just to expedite decision making, and that's innovative. Just to be able to break down those barriers and those silos, and just creating shared space on the schedule to get things done. That's a necessary process innovation to getting things done. So we could go on for hours with all the examples of the innovation that's been advanced by virtue of the pandemic, but it's really proven to a lot of the big players in the industry just what's possible when you're committed to getting it done.
And I really like that example you just gave of creating the kind of the war room where you've got the key leaders who are coming together frequently to be able to make quick decisions, and reminding them, kind of tying back to your earlier definition of innovation, that is innovation, because it's changing and recognizing that there needs to be a more efficient way of reaching the decision. And for those of you just joining, I'm talking about Justin Gernot from Healthbox, and we're talking about innovation in healthcare. And Justin, I kind of want to dive a little bit more into the changes that have occurred during COVID. And as you said, one of the prime examples being telehealth. One of the issues that I guess I was seeing was, as you said, the necessity became immediate pretty much overnight, and whether there was actual strategy involved in terms of how kind of adoption was was occurring, and do you think systems are learning from that experience?
Well, I think health systems have learned a ton from that experience. And it's been a little bit of a tale of two health systems. You have health systems that had a very strong digital health strategy in place. They had solutions that were easily scalable. They had the right people and processes in place. by and large, they were able to expand what they were doing and in some cases shift some of their resources from one department to the other and support everything that was necessary. The health systems that didn't have a digital strategy in place and had to scramble to start to decide which telehealth solutions they needed, they had a tougher go of it. And a lot of those health systems are realizing now that instead of having one or two telehealth solutions in place, they might have 8 or 10 because different departments made different decisions and it was an emergency. And, when you're disorganized and you go quickly, less efficient and oftentimes more expensive decisions get made. So it's been a different experience depending on just how prepared and how advanced the organization was in terms of their people first. Do they have the right people in place and do they have the right processes to support them? And then do they have technologies in place that are easily scalable? And do they have those right people and processes to rapidly evaluate what else they might need by virtue of the pandemic or a different opportunity that comes up quickly? So while it was an acceleration of what was already going on, I don't think it was fundamentally different from the way the organizations were operating previously.
And for kind of the side of the story that you were referencing, where maybe the use of the technology hadn't already been occurring, or there wasn't the ability to more rapidly or quickly be able to expand it. Do you think there are enough examples from the systems that were prepared that are available so everyone can be able to learn and benefit from those lessons?
Oh, I think there were a lot of examples that were really impressive. I'll go to an example from here in Chicago. North Shore University Health System has had a really advanced analytics team for a number of years. And they have a pretty diverse patient population they serve. So they're in the northern suburbs of Chicago. They have a big variety of demographics of patients that they serve. And they had already very intentionally over the years engaged different patient demographics differently, and had done a good job of making sure that like cancer screenings were happening, right? So if they had a 92% colonoscopy rate in one neighborhood and a 55% rate in the other neighborhood, they were experimenting and iterating to figure out how to get that up. And they really understood the demographics well, and they had advanced analytics capabilities that really allowed them to model what the pandemic was going to do in different areas and adjust their response more proactively than other health systems. So they were able to make one of their hospitals a COVID-only hospital. Another hospital was focused on orthopedics, and they were able to segment and triage and really get ahead of so many of the challenges that other health systems had. So I think they were highly innovative in their use of analytics. But again, that's something that they already had in place. That team's been there for years. They've been very effective in a lot of other areas, and just turning their attention toward this new challenge, but basing it on all the experience that they had, really allowed them to be very successful. And even though Chicago wasn't hit as early as hard as New York, Detroit, or Seattle, Chicago was a pretty fast follower there. And through the efforts of North Shore University Health System, Advocate Aurora, and Northwestern Medicine, Rush, and others, Chicago had a better experience because there were a lot of those capabilities already in place.
Yeah, and kind of given those experiences, and as you said, the examples that you'll be able to, that other systems can be able to pick on, how do you see innovation continuing to progress and evolve as we begin to, at some point, hopefully be able to focus on different issues as opposed to COVID, and really do start planning again for the overall functioning of the healthcare system?
Well, I think innovation there's going to be two kinds of innovation that are going to be pretty dominant. One is going to be, at the health system level, it's going to be all about digital strategy for the near future. That digitalization of and digital transformation of care is highly important. It's really become clear which health systems had it and which ones needed it during the pandemic. So we expect, and HIMSS plays a key role in that to support that moving forward. So the new HIMSS Digital Health Indicator, which was introduced in April, and as a way for health systems to evaluate their digital health maturity is a very quick, objective way to identify where the gaps are in the digital maturity for a health system. We at Healthbox have built services to support that, and are going to market with those now. We're seeing other large consulting firms that also have digital strategy offerings as well. I think that's going to be a significant focus, and that's where a lot of the innovation is going to be at the health system level. Outside of the health systems, I think we're seeing disruptors like Walgreens and CVS Health and Walmart and Amazon that are really coming in again with mostly digital solutions, in a lot of cases paired with retail and insurance solutions that are really taking this opportunity to advance, and it's resonating with customers out there. And then we're going to see really big step changes from companies that are in genomics, that are in some emerging areas that are going to just fundamentally change the ways that we deliver a lot of our most critical care. So while the pandemic is taking up a lot of attention right now and so many of the headlines, we're still seeing the acceleration that as a consumer and a patient that I would hope to see.
Yeah, and thinking about from the kind of the health system perspective, as you're talking about, the digitization and expanding the footprint there, do you think there's sufficient resources to be able to invest in making sure that the appropriate infrastructure and kind of effort is able to can be put into place to be able to successfully follow through? So
with the health systems, unfortunately, it's very much a case of haves and have-nots. We came off a 12-year bull run stock market. Many health systems had conservatively invested and hung on to cash. They're going to be in a good situation, and you'll see. I think you continue to see mergers and acquisitions activity happen amongst the health systems, and that size and scale is going to allow and frankly require ongoing investment in innovation. So I think some of the bigger players are going to continue to get big. Where I worry about it is with the medium-sized health systems and the rural health systems that have, that were operating on, slim to no profit margin, that are just going to have a hard time coming back from this. So I worry that the investment among the medium to smaller players is going to be down. Not that there was a ton before, but it just gets harder to you just have harder decisions to make. And in every health system, it's a patient's first kind of decision tree. And you never want to take away from patient care to invest in things where the benefit is too far out there. So I think there's a lot to be, there's quite a few dominoes that have to fall to really see what that future is like. But I'm anticipating a tough go for medium to small size health systems. Many will be acquired or will enter into some unique partnerships. But it's going to be tough to fund everything that you want to and probably should do when it comes to digital health and into some more innovative solutions.
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely right. It's I think as you were also saying, it's that kind of stratification. It's not like it didn't exist before COVID. It's just arguably become further exacerbated by the strains that were put onto the system and to some degree the shutdown of the system for a period of time. And to your point about maybe you'll see some affiliations or you'll see further acquisitions and mergers. I think that'll be something that's going to be pretty interesting to watch, because it's before COVID you were starting to have questions of were you seeing too much consolidation, and how was that impacting prices and negotiating power, and kind of some calls, as I recall, for the government to start playing a more active role in trying to step in and investigate proposed deals. So I'm sure you can speculate for a long time in terms of, how are all those forces going to come together as we start to emerge from the immediate impacts of COVID and have to look towards, how can we strengthen the system going forward?
I totally agree. I think you can continue to see regional differences. Not every region is going to have a Kaiser Permanente, for instance, but by and large, I think you will see more consolidation. And in cases where true consolidation, true acquisition doesn't make as much sense, I think you'll see more partnership. I think that as an industry and certainly as a society, we realize how interconnected and interdependent we all are, and how much we need to partner. So I've seen, encouraging things in the areas of social determinants. I've seen some really interesting partnerships here in Chicago between large health systems that 99% of the time they compete, but that 1% and growing percentage of the time they're also collaborating and cooperating. So that's certainly exciting, and I'd love to see some non-traditional new partnerships that end up benefiting everyone involved.
Yeah, and I think that goes to the kind of some of the other areas of innovation that you were referencing earlier, that outside of the health systems, which was some of the big retailers or technology companies making plays within the healthcare industry, because I think that directly goes to the point you were making of having non-traditional factors coming in and non-traditional ideas and potential partnerships.
Oh, completely. I think the health systems that are successful are going to do more and more partnerships, regardless of how big or small they are. I think there's a set of decisions you go through in innovation and investment. It's build, buy, or partner, and it's expensive to build, or it's time consuming and challenging to build. It's expensive to buy, but frequently partnership is the fast track to growth. And so I expect to see more and more unique partnerships than ever before, and frequently partnerships with companies that were adversarial just a few months ago.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good observation, and kind of a nice little axiom to be considering. But believe it or not, we're actually already out of time. So I want to thank my guest, Justin Gernot, for a great conversation today.
Matt, thank you. I really enjoyed it.
And thank you to everyone listening. Keep the dialogue going and connect with me at #HCDEJURE. I'm Matt Fisher. Until next time.